standing in their way, guarding the way. And you might think that that angel guarding the way to the Garden of Eden was a punishment, but actually it was a protection. Notice what it says in Genesis chapter 3 and verse 22, that the Lord said, "Behold, man has become like one of us, knowing good from evil. Now lest he reaches out his hand and also take of the tree of life and live forever." You see, God's concern was once man had sinned and he had that knowledge of good and evil, his sin could be counted against him. And if he went back into the garden and ate of the tree of life in that state, he'd be forever separated from God. You see, God wants man to come back home, but only in a state where he can stay there. A man that lives forever with sin is one that will never be in the presence of God again. As Isaiah 59:2 tells us, sin separates us from God. Only those who have had their sins washed away will dwell with him again. Consider what we read in Revelation chapter 22 in verses 14 and 15. "Blessed are those who wash their robes, so they may have a right to the tree of life, and they may enter the city by the gates. Outside are the dogs, the sorcerers, the sexually immoral, the murderers, the idolaters, and everyone who loves and practices falsehood." Notice here, those that wash their robes have a right to the tree of life. You see, when man was in that sinful state, he didn't want to have a part of the tree of life because it was separating from God. But once he's cleansed, he can have it again. You see, outside will be those who are separated by sins. The sorcerers, the dogs, the sexually immoral, the murderers, the idolaters, those that have stood against God, those who love and practice falsehood, won't have a place in heaven with God. You see, God has a way for us to get back home. He had it ready in the beginning when Adam and Eve sinned, and it still stands ready for us today. That way is Jesus. Only in Jesus can we be washed from our sins. Only those who have washed their robes in his blood have a place with him in the end. All of us want to be at home. And the only home that we truly want to, should strive for, is not an earthly home, but a heavenly home. Let's make sure that we have our robes washed and ready to go home, to be ready to spend eternity with God. We don't want to be in a state of sin when Christ comes back, because that will mean eternal separation. We don't want to die in a state of sin, because that means we'll never get back home. But if we wash our robes, we'll have a place at home with him. Thanks for sharing this message today.